Helen Jane Weiser was born on April 16, 1854, in Springfield, Illinois, to Hiram and Delia Gray Weiser. The family moved to Iowa, where Delia cared for their children, Helen, Rachel, and Aseneth, while Hiram prospected in the Rocky Mountains for 2 years. During their time in Iowa, twins Henry and Flora were born. Eventually, Hiram relocated the family to Galt, California, where he reconstructed a sizable two-story house shipped in pieces from the east. Helen attended public schools in Sacramento County and spent at least 1 year at Hesperian College in Woodland, California. In 1872, Helen met Archibald Stewart. At 18 years old, she was 20 years younger than Archibald. Her parents preferred their daughters to marry successful older men, and Archibald, with his thriving freighting business near Pioche, Nevada, fit the bill. He originally was from Dublin, Ireland, and was of Scottish descent. By 1868, his business was profiting well, transporting ore from the pioche mines to mills in Hamilton. He also operated a wood ranch, contracting for wood cutting and selling it locally. The following year, Archibald shifted his focus to cattle dealing, and Helen and Archibald married in Stockton on April 6, 1873. After their wedding, Archibald moved Helen to a ranch at Pony Springs, a remote area north of Pioche in Lincoln County. It was here that Helen first befriended the local Paiute women. Their first child, William James, was born, and the family then relocated to Pioche, where Archibald continued his cattle business and ran a butcher shop. In Pioche, Helen gave birth to Hiram and Flora, known as Tisa. In 1879, Archibald, a successful businessman, loaned $5,000 in gold to Octavius D. Gass, using his Las Vegas ranch as collateral. But by 1881, Gass had defaulted on the loan, and Archibald foreclosed on the property. In 1882, he moved his family to the Las Vegas ranch until he could sell it, a property that was once an old Mormon fort site, possibly using materials from the abandoned structure. Archibald successfully operated the ranch, selling various produce and goods to miners and families traveling through the area. Helen's fourth child, Eveline La Vega, was born shortly after. Before the 2 years were up, a neighbor shot Archibald at the nearby Keel Ranch on July 13, 1884. Helen received a hurried note from Conrad Keel, the owner, stating, "Send a team and take Mr. Stewart away. He is dead." In her journal, Helen described her reaction. "I left my little children with Mr. Fraser and went as fast as a horse could carry me. The man who killed my husband ran as I approached. The old man Keel and Hank Parrish said he was here. Lifting a blanket, showed me the lifeless form of my husband. I knelt down beside him, took his hand, placed my hand upon his heart, and looked upon his face." Helen Stewart constructed a coffin made from the doors of her house and buried her husband west of the ranch on a small hill. A few weeks later, she traveled to her parents' home in Galt, California, where she gave birth to Archibald Jr. on January 25, 1885. During this time, her father, Hiram Weiser, took over the operation of the Las Vegas ranch. Conrad Keel and Schuyler Henry were tried with the murder of Archibald Stewart, while the third man, Hank Parrish, disappeared on the day of the murder and escaped. Helen was subpoenaed to testify, and she, Keel, and Schuyler were the only witnesses called. The case hinged on Helen's testimony against the two men. The jury did not indict them due to the lack of an impartial witness. a common occurrence in Lincoln County at the time. After the trial, Helen applied for a widow's tax exemption to the Lincoln County Board of Equalization. Although she was granted a $1,000 exemption, the board raised her taxes on the Las Vegas ranch by $1,000, a move in pioche to show their disdain for her deceased husband. With 4 small children and another on the way, Helen had little choice but to keep the ranch active until it could be sold. She successfully managed the ranch with her father, and by 1890 she had become the largest landowner in Lincoln County. By 1888, rumors of a railroad being built through the Las Vegas Valley began to spread, attracting more people to buy land in the area. Helen remained convinced that Hank Parrish had instigated her husband's murder. In 1891, Parrish was hanged in Ely, Nevada. Helen noted the event in her journal, underlying the words heavily twice. In 1893, Helen was appointed the first postmaster of Las Vegas, with the name initially spelled Los Vegas to avoid confusion with the Las Vegas of New Mexico. Despite the ranch's success, Helen was concerned about her children's education. With no formal school in sight, she convinced James Ross McGarrigle, an Oxford-educated man and 20-year resident of Lincoln County, to tutor her 3 youngest children. Having worked the ranch for years, the 2 oldest boys refused tutoring. Helen enjoyed sharing her cultural interests with McGarrigle, and they became great friends. Unfortunately, he died at the ranch and had to be buried beside her husband in the family plot, later known as 4 acres. Helen then sent her 3 youngest children to California to attend school. Tragically, in July 1899, Archibald Jr. died from a fall off a horse and was buried in 4 acres. The railroad planners were interested in Helen's ranch for its water supply, essential for steam-powered locomotives, and its potential to provide railroad workers with beef. In 1902, Helen sold off 2,000 acres of the ranch, along with its water source, for $55,000, equivalent to over $1.5 million today, to the San Pedro, LA, and Salt Lake City Railroad, later called the Union Pacific. She retained the Stewart burial plot, 4 acres, and purchased adjacent land. Helen and her family moved to Los Angeles to await the construction of a new house on the lot, with her eldest son Will overseeing the project. While in Los Angeles, her son Hiram died, leaving behind a wife and 2 children. His body was returned to 4 acres. In the summer of 1903, Helen married her second husband, Frank Roger Stewart, who had no relation to Archibald, but had been a cowhand at the ranch since 1886. With marriage, she had him sign a prenup to ensure all assets went to her children and that she continued to use her widowed name. Helen saw a bright future for her descendants and assured them to be patient, believing that progress would eventually reach them. She dreamed of seeing the glints of the rails, the smoke of the trains, and homes and church spires in the grain fields on the hill. With the railroad's arrival, Las Vegas began to develop into a town. A grid was drawn up and parcels were auctioned. In 1905, a tent house resort opened, followed by necessities like a market, hotel, and general store. Entertainment was also added, including a dance floor and swimming pool near the creek. Later that year, the railroads opened up to the eastern U.S., and leading to an influx of people and increased farms and ranches. After retiring from the ranch, Helen Stewart remained influential in the new town. She was considered an authority on local history and contributed to Sam Davis's The History of Nevada. She served in the Society of Nevada Pioneers and Nevada Historical Society. In 1916, she became the first woman elected to the Clark County School Board and the first woman to serve on a jury in Nevada. The town's growth attracted many new residents, including more women. After years of being one of the few women in the area, Helen enjoyed socializing with her new female friends and earned the nickname the First Lady of Las Vegas. She also sought to support the Paiute tribe, the land's original inhabitants. Helen collected over 550 Paiute baskets and donated land for the Paiute and school for their children. She was in the process of donating her work and basket collection to the state of Nevada when she passed away on March 6, 1926, from cancer. Unfortunately, the basket collection was sold by her heirs out of state and to the Hardy House Railroad chain. On the day of her funeral, all businesses closed to honor her, and many brought flowers to lay at the grave in the old 4 acres burial plot to mourn the First Lady of Las Vegas. In 1997, Helen J. Stewart was posthumously inducted into the Nevada Women's History Project Roll of Honor. This has been Biographies of the West. My name is Lorin Morgan-Richards. Thanks for watching.